Hi everyone in the world of cloud computing, and welcome to episode 10 of the Cloud Computing Show for Australia with Brad Nelson and world's #1 cloud industry expert and thought leader, David Linthicum. This show is sponsored by Nelson Hilliard, cloud computing recruitment specialists, placing great people in cloud, IoT, fintech and AI. In this week's show, Dave and I will be talking about Google adding 5 new regions and building 3 new submarine cables as it expands its infrastructure for cloud customers. Google has invested approximately $30 billion in its infrastructure over the past 3 years and plans to commission 3 subsea cables in 2019. Hi Dave, it's great to see you. How's it going?
It's going great, and I mean Google is killing it in terms of connecting everybody up, which is kind of their mission.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the move is directed at expanding the Google Cloud, and it's going to mean a big deal for certainly the Southern Hemisphere, isn't it? However, how do you think that Australia will benefit from this betterment of the infrastructure that Google's got planned?
I think it's funny. It's like everything that occurs in Asia really kind of happens in Australia as well. So while they're down there hooking up companies and the Singapore companies and the anything that deals in Asia Pac, suddenly Australia is included as well, which is it's always kind of weird because it's culturally it can be on an extremely different than some of the Asia countries that are out there. So I think this is kind of par for the course. Google's making the right decisions in terms of setting up the infrastructure that's needed in that region of the world, and what we're going to do is end up with better infrastructure than we have here in the States, because in the States we built the infrastructure 10, 15, 20 years ago in many parts of the country, and I think in the Asia Pac countries and also in Australia, you guys are going to end up with this wireless infrastructure and this high-speed infrastructure that's going to just beat us to death in the States. And I think it's going to be really kind of a jumping-off point for leveraging cloud computing, and basically it's going to be a huge expansion and a huge land grab that occurs in Australia. So it's going to be kind of funny where I can actually get access to Google resources, and other internet-based resources too, as well as Amazon and Microsoft, and do so at a quicker bandwidth than I can in the States. So I'm kind of jealous of you guys.
Yeah, it seems that there's a number of companies teaming up now that's going to be really supporting the subsea cable network, as it were. I understand that there's a company called Indigo and other existing subsea systems across Asia that are going to be creating scalable and diverse paths to Australia, which is, like you just said, increasing the resilience in the Pacific. And the Google Infrastructure Vice President was quick to comment on that. So it's great to see that Australia's not going to be left out with all this subsea cabling, and that everyone's coming together to give us the infrastructure that we need, especially with Google's expansion, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And to be honest with you, too, I'm just fascinated with how they would put that together. So in other words, how they would lay the cables and how they would set things up. It's probably the most boring documentary in the world, but to me it would be the most fascinating. So in other words, how we're going to actually make this work, in that region of the world, and how this thing really kind of occurs in terms of, laying down cable, connecting folks, bandwidth management, things like that. And it's very fundamental to really how things work. Connectivity ultimately is everything. The ability, here in the United States, when they are able to bring high-speed internet to certain sections of the country, suddenly they find the income level goes up and the opportunities go up and the business adoption goes up just because of those capabilities. And so here you have it at a country level, where it's not just making connectivity there, but actually providing connectivity that's, maybe 20 times as fast as what we have right now. And so Google, by doing that, is really kind of attempting down the market. And I think that's all well and good. I mean, the fact that they're making the investment. $30 billion is the gross national product of most small most small countries out there. So they're willing to invest in an area of the world to kind of make it better. And I think that connectivity kind of makes everything better, cloud and not. It's just the ability to kind of do work at home, the ability to do what we're doing, high-speed video connection, so we can record podcasts, the ability to kind of be creative and provide the tools to make that happen. So connectivity becomes everything. I think, Google's to be commended for spending the money that they are.
Yes, 100%, and they really are pioneers when it comes to laying cables to provide us with clouds. Because the irony is that we need cables under the sea for the clouds to work.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, the internet is not just a United States-based thing, so it's interconnecting everything going forward. So really, this is not about connectivity into the United States. It's about connectivity in between everything that exists out there. And so every human being, every house, every car, everything should exist online to get the benefits of doing that. And there's obviously some scary aspects of that, but there's more benefits than I think some of the downsides in making that happen. And the ability to find out information as you need it, pretty much on demand is going to be everything in terms of how we're going to increase the, ability of humans going forward to be excellent in what they do. So this is a step in the right direction. It's going to continue to be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. And I didn't know too much about this until we obviously organised this show. I mean, obviously we all know cables are running underneath the ocean to and under the water to provide us with our internet connections and connecting everyone. But I didn't realise, like you just said, there's a lot more connections than just within the United States. Well, I didn't realise that Chile is actually connected to Los Angeles, and that there's a consortium cable that runs the United States and connects to Denmark and Ireland and then on to Hong Kong. So it is a real spider web of cabling underneath the sea, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully we're understanding the impact on the environment in terms of doing that. But the reality is, I think that with fiber optic cables, things like that, we can do a lot with very little these days. And I think that's just the way of the world. But we got to get to manage stuff at some period of time, because if we have 100 cables running from a different companies out there, it's obviously kind of an environmental mess, or even just an unsightly nest of snakes that's running under the ocean. So there should be a consortium of countries that are kind of monitoring this, very much like there's a consortium of countries that are dealing with satellites in terms of what windows they exist in and how they move. But it's exciting to me just because of the ability to kind of turn second world and third world countries into first world countries, kind of providing them with the assets they need to really kind of be excellent at whatever they want to do. So this is a game changer. I think that, when connectivity comes to countries, comes to parts of the United States, comes to any kind of a particular area, and people, they're able to turn that into monetizing their ability to provide value, either services and, companies popping up and things like that. And so the same is going to occur here. I mean, China is going to be a very different place in 10 years. Australia is going to be a very different place in 10 years. And all this is around information services jobs and, productivity around that. And I think that, it's a step in the right direction, because, ultimately it's better than, the alternatives, which is not having the capabilities that other countries are able to do, and it's going to set them apart. So it's a game changer.
It certainly is. Sorry, just had a slight technical hitch there. So that's sorted itself out. Sorry about that. Skype's been a bit funny today, actually. So apologies, viewers, if the signal's dropping in and out from David's point or my point of view. And for some reason, our bandwidth has been a bit squashed. We've jinxed ourselves talking about this fantastic $30 billion investment into the connectivity of between Australia and the US. We hope we haven't, but yeah. So yeah, it's great, and I'm sure Australia is going to massively benefit from all this interconnected speed and access to the 5 new regions as well that Google have invested so heavily in. David, thank you so much for being a part of the Australia show again this week. As always, an absolute pleasure to have you on board.
Happy to be here, and looking forward to the additional bandwidth coming to Australia pretty quick, so we can have these shows.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and by the way, forgot to do this, but congratulations on your new position at Deloitte, sir. That sounds very exciting.
I'm excited to be here at Deloitte and looking forward to many productive years here.
That's awesome. Great news. Thank you. Well, thanks everyone for watching this week's Cloud Computing Australia show. We do hope you enjoyed it. And please remember to subscribe, comment and like this show, and you can get David on Twitter, which is at David Linthicum, and I'm also on Twitter, which is at Nelson_Hilliard. Thanks again for watching, everyone.